She was applying eyeliner in the hallway mirror, the one she usually ignored, bright red lipstick, color she once called too much, now carefully painted on like it meant something. Her phone buzzed. She tilted the screen just far enough to keep it away from my line of sight. I stood in the doorway with my hands full of groceries, staring at the woman I was supposed to marry in 21 days. Kyle and I are meeting for dinner. Closure, she said, like it was a dentist appointment. Closure? I repeated, setting the bags down slowly. From what? College heartbreak or the 3 years you called him a walking trauma response? She didn't flinch. People evolve. It's not about him. It's about me clearing the past. Don't be paranoid. That word again. Paranoid. It always shows up when women want men to stop asking the questions they already have answers to. But I didn't say that. I smiled and leaned on the doorframe. Does he know you're engaged now? She waved a hand like I'd asked something beneath her. Yes, obviously. We're just talking. I need this for my own peace. Peace. There it was. Another word people throw in your face when they want you quiet. She grabbed her purse, clipped on earrings she hadn't worn since last year's gala, the one where she didn't feel like dressing up for my work dinner, and walked past me without making eye contact. I watched her leave without saying a word, because silence is where people tell on themselves. I didn't follow her. I didn't ask what restaurant. I didn't message Kyle. I just stood in the living room looking at the RSVP cards on the table and the save the date magnets we'd mailed out last month. And I waited, because I don't yell, I don't beg, I study. What most people don't get is that betrayal rarely starts in bed. It starts in the eyes, the way they shift when they lie about something small, like lipstick, or peace, or why your ex suddenly deserves a wine glass send-off like a retired senator. So I did what any man with a gut full of suspicion and a face trained not to show it would do. I sat down with her laptop. No, I didn't snoop. I didn't need to. The browser history was clean, too clean, like someone vacuumed a crime scene. Even the tabs were curated, wedding venues, registry links, a Pinterest board with centerpieces that were never actually her style. But there was one open tab she forgot to close, a playlist. The title? Nostalgia Hits Different. First song, their song. That was enough for me. And if you've read this far, let me interrupt myself for just a second. More than 90% of you reading or listening to these stories never actually follow. But if you want this team to keep digging deeper, darker, and sharper into these real twisted stories, hit that follow button. It helps more than you think. Now, back to Natalie. She came home around 11. I was on the couch, not asleep, not angry, just present, like a statue someone left in the middle of a war zone. Didn't want to wake you, she said, slipping her heels off. I turned my head slightly. You didn't. She hesitated just for a second, then said, It was good, just talked, we're done. That phrase again, just talked, like I didn't know the weight behind just, like I hadn't heard it used a dozen times by friends who later cried into beers about ruined lives and empty beds. I looked at her hand. No ring. She followed my gaze and smiled faintly. Took it off to wash my hands. Forgot to put it back. Of course, I said. Totally normal. She blinked at me. Something in her pupils twitched, then steadied. She walked past, disappeared into the bathroom. I heard the shower turn on. I didn't get up. I didn't check her phone. I didn't accuse. I opened mine instead, pulled up Instagram, and there he was, Kyle. In a dark restaurant, 2 glasses of wine on the table, no faces, just hands. But I recognized her nails, white polish, silver tips. She got them done the day before and asked me if they were too bridal. Then the next story, a laugh, a flicker of blonde hair. Her voice, no tag, no caption, but I knew, and she knew I'd know, eventually. I took a screenshot, saved it to a folder I hadn't needed in years. And for the first time in months, I wasn't nervous about the wedding. I was excited for what came before it. It was 12:43 a.m. when I opened Kyle's profile. Not because I was jealous, because I was curious. There's a difference. One makes you spiral, the other makes you document. His page wasn't private, typical narcissist move. The kind of guy who posts motivational gym selfies, but still uses the word sick to describe how a woman looks in a dress. The last few posts were the usual. CrossFit shots, beach throwbacks, something about real estate grind set. Then came the story. At first, just a black background. 2 wine glasses, clinking, Nothing specific, but I knew the curve of that glass. It was from a place called Sable, one of those rooftop spots where the menu doesn't have prices, just suggestive adjectives. Next slide. A burst of laughter. The camera slightly shakes. He's filming from across the table, trying to pretend it's candid. And there she is, Natalie. Her head thrown back, laughing, her hand on her chest. No ring, no guilt. She looked happy, too happy. You know how they say it's not the cheating that kills you, it's how good they look doing it? That. Her hand brushed her hair back in the clip, and for a split second, her fingers were visible. Bare. I paused the story, rewatched, froze the frame, zoomed in, gone. The 3-2 engagement ring I bought after 3 months of searching, measuring, second-guessing, absent like it never existed. I remember the day I proposed, how she cried, how she told her friends I nailed it, how she said it felt too perfect to be real. Well, here's real. You don't take off a ring like that unless you want to disappear someone, even temporarily. I took a screenshot, sent it to myself, archived it. Did I text her? No. Did I rage scroll the rest of his feed? Tempting, but no. I just watched, listened, observed. Because when people think you're asleep, they stop performing. They relax. And when liars relax, they get sloppy. I scrolled deeper. 6 months back, a post of Kyle and Natalie at a college reunion. I hadn't known she even went. Caption, some connections never rust. That got a save too. I wasn't just collecting evidence. I was curating a timeline, not for court, not for friends, for me, to remind myself what I was looking at. A few hours earlier, she'd told me they were meeting for closure, that it was about peace, that I was being paranoid. But there she was, red lipstick smudged slightly, laughing like she was 17 again, and didn't owe anyone an explanation. You want to know the worst part? I felt nothing. No hot flush of anger, no sting behind my eyes, just a cold, mechanical click in my brain, a lever pulled, a process activated. People like Natalie always think the danger's in the yelling, that as long as you're not screaming, you're still in love. But I didn't feel love in that moment. I felt precision. When she came home, I was still on the couch, same spot, lights off. She crept in like a thief, thought I was sleeping. I wasn't. She walked past me, holding her heels, whispering to the floor like it owed her an apology. I heard her in the kitchen, the sound of the ring clinking back into its box, not onto her finger. I didn't move, didn't breathe too hard, just listened to the symphony of a liar covering her tracks. You know what that sound is? A hinge creaking open on a door she thought would always be locked from the inside. I let her sleep, let her dream, let her think she got away with it. But I went back to my room, opened a private group chat, the one we'd made months ago with her maid of honor, my best man, both sets of parents, her cousins, wedding planner. It was called Final Countdown. I changed the name to read this first. I didn't hit send yet, not yet. You see, rage is loud, but silence is stage lighting. And Natalie was about to step into her spotlight. The eggs were already on low heat by the time she stumbled into the kitchen, barefoot, hoodie over last night's outfit like it was camouflage. She stretched, yawned too dramatically, then gave me a lazy smile like I was just some sweet idiot who waited up for her with worry in his chest, except I hadn't. I'd waited up with a screenshot. "Smells good," she said, pouring herself coffee without asking if I wanted any. I didn't respond, just plated her omelet, slid it across the island with a practiced motion. Everything was normal, intentional, calculated. She sat, scrolled through her phone, probably deleting traces, rewriting alibis. I watched her pick at her food. No hangover guilt, no post-mistake awkwardness, just business as usual. I sat across from her, calm. "Everything okay last night?" I asked, cutting my toast. She didn't look up. "Yeah, totally fine." He apologized, as it was weird at first, but yeah, we're done now. It's good. Done. She said it like someone describing an old Netflix show she finally stopped watching. Like Kyle was a bad habit she just kicked with a glass of wine and a hug goodbye. No mention of the bistro, no mention of the laughter, the glasses, or the camera that caught her not wearing the ring I'd spent a full paycheck on. Just vague references and the kind of tone you use when you're speeding past the scene of an accident hoping no one saw you swerve. She took another bite, this time more confident, like she'd passed the lie detector round and earned breakfast. I watched her lips move as she chewed, imagined how they probably pressed against Kyle's cheek. Or worse. She looked up, smiled again. "Thanks for making this, babe." Of course, I said, because I'm not the kind of man who argues with ghosts. I let them haunt themselves. She got up, rinsed her plate, kissed my cheek. Love you, she said, too fast. Automatic. Like a password she'd used too many times and forgot the meaning behind. Love you too, I replied, but I didn't lean in, didn't lift my head. She paused, maybe sensing something, maybe not, then grabbed her keys and left like she hadn't spent the night rewriting the meaning of commitment. The door shut. I didn't move for a long time, just sat there, staring at the half-eaten egg on her plate, cooling like her version of the truth. You know what's funny? She really thought the performance worked, that I'd heard her answer and accepted it, that I'd clocked back into the fantasy like a good little fiancé, keep smiling through tux fittings and guest list stress while she squeezed nostalgia into side rooms and boutique bathrooms. But I've worked in systems long enough to know when the code looks too clean, it's hiding malware. And Natalie? She was practically flashing warning pop-ups. I walked over to my laptop, opened the screenshot folder, added a few new ones, not just from Kyle. No, I started checking mutual friends, bridesmaids, his friends, her tagged photos. One of them had posted a blurry group shot, 4 people at the table. One looked a lot like Natalie, mid-laugh, hand resting on Kyle's wrist. She'd said it was just the two of them. That little inconsistency, that's where liars always trip. Not in the big lies, in the casual ones. I jotted down the usernames, dated the screenshots, organized them by time. It wasn't obsession, it was prep work. You don't build a trap the night you need it, you build it in silence, nail by nail, piece by piece. So when it finally springs, there's no noise, just impact. I wasn't planning to scream or throw rings or demand apologies. I was planning something simpler, letting her fall all on her own. It took less than 8 minutes to dismantle a year of planning. I sat down with a fresh mug of coffee, black, no cream, no sugar, like how I felt. Natalie was gone for the morning, out picking up decor samples with her maid of honor. That meant I had a window, a perfect, quiet window between her pretending and me refusing to play along. I opened my phone, scrolled past the usual noise, registry reminders, florist quotes, another unread message from her cousin about table arrangements. All of it irrelevant now. All of it so laughably off topic considering what was about to happen. Then I tapped new group chat, name, wedding crew, final countdown, participants, everyone. My parents, her parents, our siblings, groomsmen, bridesmaids, even Aunt Cheryl, who still thought Facebook was edgy. Natalie wasn't in it. That was intentional, surgical. She had the original chat, the real one, the one with budget spreadsheets and polite emoji reactions to seating charts. But this one had context. I started the upload, Kyle's story screenshots. I didn't just include the 2 obvious ones. I added context, a zoom in on her bare ring finger, a cross-reference to the timeline she gave me the night before. A caption he'd posted weeks ago that now looked more sinister than cute. Sometimes you gotta double back to see what still sparks. And then the message, short, blunt, a quiet atom bomb disguised as a status update. In case anyone's wondering why there might be a change in plans. I hovered for a moment, thought about wording it softer, then remembered her exact tone. Don't be paranoid. Tap. Message sent. I watched as the little profile pictures began shifting, lighting up with that digital flicker of new awareness. Faces I'd toasted with. People who had RSVP'd yes with joy in their voices. Watching them now, one by one, process something they weren't supposed to know. Then I hit mute, not to avoid the backlash, to enjoy the silence. You see, most people think revenge is loud, that it comes with shouting matches or storming out of rehearsal dinners, but there's something profoundly more surgical in a quiet, perfectly timed leak. Something satisfying about letting the truth just breathe. Because what do people trust more than a dramatic confrontation? Screenshots. I walked away from the phone, let it vibrate into the couch cushion, let the panic swell in the background while I made a sandwich I no longer had to share. I knew what would happen next. A bridesmaid would message me separately, ask if this was a joke. One of my groomsmen would text a single word, "Damn!" My mother would call, not quite crying, but in that quiet voice she uses when the world breaks under her feet. And Natalie's sister? Oh, she'd lose it. Always loved Kyle. Said he aged well. I didn't answer any of them, not yet. Let them stew in the silence. Because right now, I had clarity. I wasn't being dramatic. I wasn't making a scene. I was making an exit. And I wasn't going to slam the door. I was going to leave it slightly ajar, just wide enough for everyone to watch her try to explain it, to see her craft a speech that danced around facts, avoided names, and spun phrases like closure and misunderstood into a performance she was never quite talented enough to pull off. I walked into the bedroom, grabbed the envelope with our honeymoon confirmations, non-refundable of course, and slid it into a drawer. I'd go alone if I had to. Hell, I might enjoy it more. One last thing. I logged into our wedding website, the one we sent to 200 guests. I changed the main banner from Natalie and James over November 18th, 25 to site under maintenance. Please stand by. Let them wonder. Let her panic. Let Kyle refresh that page and realize he wasn't just a side character. He was the inciting incident. All that remained was impact. And Natalie, she was going to walk into it like it was a confetti cannon. It started with a vibration, then another. Then the thin, tinny chime of a ringtone playing over and over again in the other room. At first, I thought she might ignore it. Natalie wasn't exactly known for urgency when it didn't center her directly. But when her phone began lighting up like a slot machine on speed, I heard the panic in her voice crack through the bedroom walls. She rushed past me in the hallway barefoot, her hair still damp from whatever last-ditch spa self-care she'd attempted to soothe her conscience. The screen in her hand looked like it was bleeding messages. First, her sister, then her cousin, then someone from her yoga group who was apparently disappointed but not surprised. I stayed at my desk, unmoved. The printer was still warm. I just finished filing away the final vendor cancellation. Then her voice. "What the F did you do?" she spat, storming into my office like she paid rent in threats. Her phone was shaking in her grip. I could see the group chat on the screen. My message, front and center, still unread by a few stragglers but already screenshotted and probably forwarded to distant relatives and nosy coworkers. I didn't flinch, didn't even turn my chair to face her fully. Instead, I picked up my phone and tapped it once. The photo loaded. Kyle's story, the one with the 2 glasses, the one with her hand bare and her eyes soft. Then I turned it toward her, quietly. "I just posted what he did," I said. "You're the one who told me not to be paranoid." Her face fell, but not like someone who's shocked. No, it was the collapse of a person who thought they were smarter than the person they were lying to, and just realized they were 2 steps behind the entire time. "You're humiliating me," she shouted. "Am I?" I asked, tilting my head. "Because the bistro looked nice. You even laughed at his joke. That's public, Natalie. You made that choice." She blinked hard. Once. Twice, like she could reframe this into some lesser offense, a misunderstanding, a miscommunication. She even tried the tone, soft, remorseful, the kind you practice in a mirror before a fake apology. "I didn't cheat." "Great," I said deadpan. "Then you can call the priest back and tell him we're back on." She stared, because we both knew I wasn't calling anyone back, and we both knew I never said we were off. She said, "You could have talked to me." "You mean like you did when you told Kyle you weren't really getting married?" I asked, still calm, still cold. "You told him that, didn't you?" She didn't answer. Her eyes flicked down. Guilt is loud even when you whisper it with silence. I stood, walked past her, let her turn to follow me like a dog trailing a leash she forgot she was wearing. I grabbed the wedding binder off the coffee table and held it out. "Here, you're going to need this if you want to explain things to your bridesmaids. You might also want to call the DJ, unless Kyle's available to step in." Her jaw dropped. "Don't do that," she hissed. "Don't turn this into a circus." I laughed once, quiet and sharp. "Natalie, I didn't turn it into anything. You picked the tent, you lit the fire, you handed out the popcorn." She took the binder, trembling now, not from rage, from realization. The walls weren't just closing in, they were glass. And everyone was watching. I could hear her phone going off again. Another bridesmaid, another family member, the officiant probably, asking if there was a new rehearsal schedule or if the rumors were true. She tried again, softer. "James, we can talk about this. Privately. I think you've done enough talking in private." That one hit her. I saw it. Her mouth opened like she wanted to bite back, but nothing came out. Just the hollow gasp of someone who thought she could bluff forever. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to explain, because that's what evidence does. It speaks for itself. And Natalie, she'd been loud for too long. Now it was my turn to let silence drag her by the collar into the light. She stood in the middle of the living room, gripping her phone like it might crack in her hand. Her knuckles had gone pale, and for once her lips weren't moving. No defense, no retort, just a pulsing, frantic silence. Her mascara had started to smear, not from tears, but from the sheer heat of unraveling. Then the desperation clicked. She tapped Kyle's name. I watched her thumb hesitate before she hit speaker. The ringback tone echoed through the room like a countdown. She paced once, twice, then stopped when he picked up. "Hey," he said, too casual, like he hadn't just set fire to her life. "What the F is wrong with you?" She hissed, her voice sharp and low. "Why would you post that? You knew it would look bad." There was a pause, then he laughed. "Because you told me you weren't actually getting married." 5 seconds of silence. That's how long it took to detonate the lie from both ends. Her eyes darted to mine, and I just sat there, leaned back in the chair like I was watching a mid-tier crime drama unfold live in my own home. She said nothing, just stared at me, mouth open slightly, as if she wanted to say it was a joke or a misquote or something, anything except the truth. I raised an eyebrow. "Glad we got closure," I said. My voice wasn't raised, not triumphant, just matter-of-fact, like a man who'd finally finished an audit. She fumbled. Her thumb scrambled to hang up. She dropped the phone mid-swipe. It clattered to the floor. The call still active. Kyle's voice. "Hello? Hello?" She didn't pick it up, just stared at it like it was radioactive, as if by leaving it on the ground, she could undo what had just happened, reverse the physics of exposure. I stood, walked over to the counter, and poured myself a glass of water. She finally bent down, scooped the phone up, and hung up without saying another word. "James," her voice cracked. I turned slowly. "You lied to him. You lied to me. The only person you told the truth to was yourself, and you did it by taking that ring off before dinner." Her mouth opened again. "Stop," I cut her off. "No more speeches, no more damage control. You made the bed, you even ironed it." She was trembling now. I could see the cracks in real time. Her shoulders tensed like she was preparing for a car crash. Her face shifted between rage and something else. Fear. Not fear of me, fear of reality, of consequences. "You don't understand," she tried. "No," I said, "I understand perfectly. You were hedging bets, keeping one foot in nostalgia while the other strutted toward the aisle." She blinked. "It wasn't like that." "Then explain it to me," I said, stepping closer, setting the glass down. "Explain the dinner, the ring, the lie to Kyle, the photo. Go ahead, but make it good, because the rest of our families are watching the replay in real time." She broke then, not loudly, no sobbing, just a low, cracked whisper. "I didn't think he'd post it." "You didn't think I'd see it." Silence. "I just wanted to know if I still meant something to him," she said, almost pleading. "Congratulations," I said. "You do, you just don't mean anything to me now." She looked like she'd been slapped, not because it was cruel, because it was clean, honest, final. And I think in that moment it finally clicked. There was no fixing this, not with a ring, not with tears, not with a carefully worded Instagram caption. The game was over. She'd played both hands, and still lost. I left her standing there, staring at the carpet like it held the blueprint for her next excuse. Me, I had one last vendor to call, but first, I opened my laptop, logged into the wedding site, and changed the RSVP link. Event canceled. Simple. No drama. Because the truth didn't need decoration. It just needed a screen and a little time. I didn't slam drawers. I didn't storm through the house like a man wronged. I moved the way a surgeon does when the damage is beyond repair, steady, exact, unsentimental, one bag, just enough clothes for a week, 2 books, laptop, phone charger, passport, not because I had a trip planned, but because suddenly the idea of a foreign time zone felt cleaner than anything in this house. The wedding binder sat on the kitchen table, still thick with color-coded tabs and venue brochures. I placed it right in the center. No note, just a silent offering of the fantasy she killed. I opened my phone and pulled up the venue's contact, the one we'd toured together, laughing about how this place smells like old money and better decisions. Typed, cancel, date released. 2 minutes later, a polite auto response came in. Something sterile about cancellation policies and non-refundable deposits. Funny how much money you lose cleaning up a mess someone else made. Then the group chat, my wedding crew. Final countdown. I scrolled through the reactions to my last message. Some were supportive, some confused. A few were just emojis, little digital attempts at sympathy. No one defended her. That silence said more than words. I typed, "Apologies to those who booked flights. I'll reimburse you. This won't be happening." No punctuation theatrics, no vague promises of rescheduling or taking time. Just done. Hit send. Muted the chat again. Because I was done performing. I zipped the bag and slung it over my shoulder just as I heard her footsteps rush in behind me. She was crying now, not the quiet, guilty kind, the frantic, gasping kind, like she was drowning in a lie that had turned on her. "James, please don't do this. We can talk." I panicked. I didn't mean. I turned slowly, looked at her, really looked at her. Her hair was a mess, mascara smeared, and the hoodie she threw on didn't quite hide the last traces of the night before. It was the first time I'd seen her without performance armor. "You didn't mean it?" I asked. Her lips moved, but no words came out. I stepped past her, set the bag down by the door. "You meant it enough to take your ring off," I said quietly. "That wasn't a panic move. That was a decision." She took a step toward me. I didn't know how I felt. I wanted to be sure. I thought I needed. "You thought you'd try him on one last time," I cut in. "See if he still fit. Like an old jacket you weren't sure you were ready to donate." "No, that's not." I held up a hand. "Don't insult both of us." Her face crumpled. She reached for me. "Don't." That single word froze her in place. Her arms dropped. "You can't just leave," she whispered. "Not like this." "Like what?" I asked. "With dignity?" She looked away. I opened the door. A rush of cool air hit the room like a slap of reality. She tried one last time. "We can fix this." "No," I said. You want to salvage the optics. That's not the same thing." Her breathing was shaky now. "I love you." "No," I said again, this time without anger. "You love the story. You just hated the ending." I picked up my bag and walked out. No door slam, no dramatic turn to look back. Just the soft click of the lock behind me. Final. Surgical. I didn't know where I was going. A hotel, maybe, or my brother's place. Somewhere with less perfume in the air and more honesty in the silence. But I knew one thing for sure. Natalie wanted a rehearsal for regret. I was already living the finale. The thing no one tells you about detonating a relationship in public is that the blast doesn't end with you. It echoes, ripples out, smashes into people who had nothing to do with it but still formed their little narratives, picked sides they hadn't realized they were standing on. By that evening, the wedding cancellation had gone from private chat to public whisper, first in DMs, then group texts, then the goddamn Facebook announcement Natalie's aunt decided to post without asking either of us. "Sad to say the wedding is off. Please give them both space." Like we were a reality show couple. Like she hadn't just weaponized sympathy for likes. My phone buzzed for hours. Her cousin unfollowed her, not quietly either. She posted a story, text on black screen. "Don't expect loyalty if you trade your ring for nostalgia." No name, no tag. But no one needed one. My best man texted, "Got the guest room ready, bring bourbon." I drove straight there. No small talk, no venting. Just a quiet drink and the kind of silence you only share with someone who doesn't need you to explain the shape of the wound. The next day, a few mutual friends messaged me directly. One said, "I don't even know what to say." Another, "If it means anything, we always kind of wondered about Kyle." That one hit strange, like it was supposed to comfort me. It didn't. Because when someone says they always wondered, what they mean is they saw signs and said nothing. Chose comfort over confrontation. Politeness over truth. Classic wedding crowd behavior. I didn't respond. Not to them, not to anyone. Even the planner reached out. Very professional. "We can offer partial credit on decor." I replied with a thumbs up. But the message that stung the most didn't come from Natalie. It came from her mother. Subject line: please, just that. The body of the email was longer. James, I know you probably don't want to hear from me right now, and I wouldn't blame you. But I raised her. I know when she's scared. I know when she's spiraling. I'm not asking you to forgive. I just want you to know she's not okay. If you have a minute to talk, I'd be grateful. I stared at the screen for a long time. She wasn't pleading on Natalie's behalf. Not exactly. She was just reaching, the way people do when the floor starts giving out and they realize the house they helped build was balanced on sand. I closed the laptop. Didn't reply. Not because I wanted to punish anyone. Because I had nothing left to say. I wasn't angry anymore. That had passed. Like a storm that came too fast to panic, too loud to ignore, and then just moved on. What I felt now was something closer to erosion, the slow, quiet grind of disappointment reshaping everything I thought was solid. Natalie's Instagram went dark. Joint accounts were disconnected. A friend told me someone from her side messaged Kyle. He left it on read. I started getting tagged in sad boy meme posts, the kind with whiskey glasses and quotes about betrayal from anonymous philosophers with usernames like @TruthHurtsRealTalk. I muted them. Because the truth, I didn't need a digital support group. I needed space. The kind where people didn't ask how I was doing. The kind where I wasn't reduced to a teachable moment. I canceled the honeymoon booking, lost the deposit, didn't care, started sleeping with the window cracked open. Cold air felt cleaner than her perfume-stained pillows. Sometimes I think about what she was doing, whether she was crying, whether she was defending herself, whether she was blaming me, but not for long, because none of it mattered now. The collapse had already begun, not in anger, not in betrayal, in the echo chamber of silence after everything breaks, and I wasn't standing in the wreckage anymore. I was already walking away from it. 3.5 weeks after I left the wedding binder on the table like a corpse no one wanted to identify, an envelope showed up in my mailbox. Hand-addressed, no return name, the kind of paper that smells expensive because someone's trying too hard to look graceful in the wreckage. Inside, a single card, floral border, thick cardstock, script font. Natalie invites you to a celebration dinner. No mention of marriage, no vows, no officiant, just a date, time, and location. Some overpriced rooftop bar downtown that hosted bridal showers and regret. The phrase that caught my eye was, an intimate evening with close friends to celebrate love, growth, and new beginnings. I laughed. Alone in my apartment, lights off, coffee in hand. A clean, dry laugh. Celebrate what, exactly? The ghost of a relationship? The charred remains of a commitment that never even made it to the starting line? New beginnings? From where I stood, it looked more like PR damage control dressed up in mismatched bridesmaid dresses. I flipped the card over. No personal note, no apology, just a QR code to RSVP. I didn't scan it. I placed it on the counter beside a small pile of other things I wasn't going to answer. An old voicemail from her maid of honor, an unopened letter from her father who once pulled me aside and said, "You're the best thing that's ever happened to her. Just be patient with her moods." Moods. Yeah, that aged well. Instead of replying, I texted her sister. "Thanks, but I'll sit this one out. Hope it's a beautiful night." She replied a few hours later. "Understandable. Honestly, I don't even know what she's trying to prove anymore." Neither did I. But I had a theory. See, the thing about Natalie wasn't that she couldn't handle being caught. It was that she couldn't handle being irrelevant. She needed to flip the script fast. Turn the narrative from betrayal to evolution, from wedding canceled to empowered pivot. Only nobody bought it. Not really. Half the bridesmaids were no-shows. Her cousin blocked her. My parents never spoke about her again, like she'd been part of a bad dream we all politely agreed not to revisit. But the kicker? Kyle. Not on the guest list, not invited, not even mentioned in the polite versions of the story she tried to retell. But he posted, of course he did, a moody black and white shot of him alone at a bar, whiskey in hand, no visible background, just shadows and neon. Caption: "Some things aren't meant to be stolen." It was vague enough to sound poetic, but specific enough to burn. People read it and assumed he was the one hurt. That's the beautiful tragedy of ambiguity. If you stay quiet long enough, people will write the redemption arc for you. I stared at the post for a while, didn't screenshot it, Didn't send it to anyone, just let it exist. Because in that moment, something shifted. I didn't feel rage or sorrow or even pity. I felt clean. I'd carried her lies like luggage for too long, checking them in and out of every conversation, every decision. And now they weren't mine anymore. She could pass them around to whoever still believed in her edited history, let her tell stories about emotional clarity and misunderstood timelines, let Kyle play the wounded romantic if it helped him sleep. I didn't care. Because while they tried to salvage broken images, I was somewhere else, rebuilding quietly, privately, with people who didn't ask for proof I was loyal. The aftershock didn't hit me. It circled her. And the irony? She couldn't even post about it. Too risky, too revealing, too obvious. The woman who once said, "Privacy is power," was now stuck whispering invitations to people who already saw behind the curtain. And me? I poured a drink, lit a candle, played the record she used to hate, and smiled. Because healing didn't need applause, it just needed distance. 6 months is a strange length of time. Long enough for a wound to scar, short enough that the memory still has shape. Life didn't fall apart after Natalie. It simply rearranged itself. New routines replaced old ones. The bed felt bigger, then comfortable, then normal. I stopped checking her social media, stopped expecting apologies, stopped replaying the night everything snapped. Silence became a habit, not a punishment. Then one evening, after a long day that didn't involve a single thought of her, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No return address, handwritten, familiar, but restrained, like someone trying to disguise their handwriting without admitting they were disguising it. Inside, a glossy 5/7 photo. Us. From the engagement shoot, the one where she made me redo the pose 5 times because your smile looks too forced. Funny thing, the only smile that looks forced now is the one on her face in that picture. A woman trying to look like a future she wasn't sure she wanted. I flipped it over. I still think about what could have been. No signature. She didn't need one. The loops in the handwriting gave her away instantly. Nostalgia mixed with self-pity, her favorite cocktail. For a moment, I just stared at it. Not with anger, not even with sadness. Just recognition. A relic from another timeline. A message from someone who assumed she was still a chapter I reread on lonely nights. But that timeline was buried. I walked into the kitchen, turned on the faucet for a thin trickle, and held the corner of the photo over a lighter. The flame took to it eagerly, curling the edges inward, turning smiles into smoke and sentiment into ash. The sink swallowed the remains without ceremony. No dramatic music, no symbolic speech, just heat, smoke, water, and an ending. I wiped my hands on a towel, opened the cabinet, and poured myself a glass of scotch. Not the cheap stuff we used to share because she liked the bottle design. The real stuff. The kind you drink when you're not trying to impress anyone. I sat down, took a slow sip, and let the quiet settle around me like a tailored suit. Then I picked up my phone. At the top of my messages was someone new. Someone who hadn't asked about Natalie. Someone who didn't compare, didn't pry, didn't need to step over debris to get to me. Someone who laughed easily and never once used nostalgia as an alibi. I typed, "Dinner's still on, right?" 3 dots. Then a photo. Her legs crossed, heels glinting in low restaurant lighting. Caption, "Waiting." I felt it then. Not triumph in the sense of beating someone. Just the quiet, steady kind. The kind that comes from choosing yourself without needing permission. The kind that doesn't ask for applause or closure or sympathy. I put on my jacket, finished the scotch, turned off the lights, and I smiled.